the only one who see Asians as very confused people. This moment they are black people. This moment they'll call themselves people of color. This moment they'll call themselves white people. All right. I believe the only reason why they tend to claim black sometimes is whenever they're in trouble, right? In America, especially. Like whenever they're in trouble, let's say for instance, when they were raiding, when the ICE raids was so intense, that first time, these people were calling on black people, please come and help us. But deep down in them, these guys are racist. They are more racist than even white people. In the morning, they are white, and then in the night, they are black. How many of you still trust them? Anyway, just keep watching this few videos, then we'll talk about it at the end.
Totally. It's not cool to be white for the first time in history, but that hasn't been the case for the last 50 years. The model minority game that Asians have to play is based on two rules. One is loving whiteness, and two is hating blackness. Hating blackness is your ticket to ride. You need to do that in order to even play this game. The prize of which is supposed to be membership at the White Country Club at some undefined point in the future. So you do all these things in order to try to win a seat at the table, which is like cozying up to whiteness. But by this point, we now know that that day is never going to come, and it's for a very simple reason. It's simply because of optics, because we don't look white. You have to look white in order to join the white club. And we thought that we could get in based on merit or other qualities that that were valuable. But no, there aren't any other qualities that are valuable. You just have to look white. And so because we have flat faces and slanted eyes, we're never going to get in there. This is a game we cannot win. So I stopped playing, and instead I started playing with BIPOC, and that has been so much better. It is not a game when you play with BIPOC. It is simply community and friendship and wholeness, and that's where I've landed. I'm BIPOC all the way.
Why are Asians the biggest minority that are so obsessed with being or trying to be accepted by white people?
That's a good question, my Asian brother, and the one thing I have an answer to. Short answer is white people. The long answer is, you see, back in the day, there was this thing called the transatlantic slave trade. Wealthy white people had to convince a shit ton of white people why they should enslave black people. Because back in the day, you could enslave anyone. But how are you going to mass enslave a group of people who look like you? Especially if you did, because they did try that. They'll just run away and blend into the crowd. But black people were different. There's a continent of them. There'll always be black no matter what you do. And didn't even speak your language or share the same culture too, so you couldn't really relate to them. So white people came up with a theory. The longer slavery went on, the more derogatory they thought of black people. As time went on, slavery wasn't becoming as popular or ethical or profitable as before. So they turned their eyes to Asia, where there were spices, silk, wealth, technology, everything. Everything is Asia. And while yes, there is Africa, Asians, the problem is they don't look like black people. They don't have the same skin color as black people. There are many different colors of Asians. And while yes, they did end up colonizing Asia and exploiting it, there were Asians that literally looked pretty white passing. So they ended up coming with the term yellow to find a way to make Asians seem less, white. And it worked, honestly. But some Asian countries did end up not getting colonized. Japan, South Korea, Thailand. But those countries were somehow screwed over regardless by European influence. But jumping to the more modern era, when Asians start moving to America, they were also being massacred and discriminated against. But even though that black people and Asian people were getting discriminated against by the same group of people, Asians were seen as the model minority. I'm going to use this theory. I'm going to call it the massa theory. Since white people colonized the world and were seen as the superior race and screwed over all these countries and colonized all these countries and exploited all these countries, you're bound to see these people as a superior race. So when these people run the world, who would you rather be seen as? A white person or a black person? Being called the model minority split black people and Asian people apart because Asians would rather be seen as the white passing people or the white side of history than, the black side of history. They still end up getting screwed over, But after World War II and stuff, their country started modernizing and advancing. They were getting better opportunities in the US. Because they were also becoming more successful and black people were still seen as poor and ghetto, kind of reinforced the model minority stereotype, which is also hurtful, I might add, because there are Asians who are still poor, mostly Southeast Asianers. And there were times where black people and Asian people still stood up to each other and worked together to go against oppression. Yet even today, we can still see the echoes of the modern minority stereotype. LA riots happened, where black people felt like the Asian community wasn't really helping them. You see, for some people, the Asian community was always seen in the black community. There'd be stores, salons, mini markets in black communities, but black people felt like Asians were only there for business. They were part of the black community, but black people didn't feel like they were a part of the black community. So when one of the catalysts, Latasha Harlan's death, happened, was just fuel to the fire at the LA riots. And sadly, $350 to $400 million of businesses were burned down in the LA riots. Korean people felt like they were defending themselves and their businesses, which was their livelihood. Black people felt like they were getting revenge. And I will honestly admit, probably were just looting just to take advantage of the chaos. But it just shows how tensions from that far really impact us today.
So why is whiteness so often an ideal of beauty in Asian society?
Beauty is, which I think you should ask yourself where these standards actually come from.
So this one is trying to show you what is not elegant and use these models. And anti-blackness is very common in Asian beauty culture. For example, there's this Thai ad whose tagline was translated as, "Just being white, you will win." And it had numerous images of a woman in blackface. And given how many beauty products in Asia are about lightening your skin, it is easy to assume it's all Eurocentrism. But in fact, a lot of these Asian norms draw on many cultural factors, and a lot of them tie to patriarchy. For example, in many Asian societies, fair skin has been beautiful for millennia. So for example, in historic China, a beautiful Tang woman had very fair skin, often embellished with the use of makeup. Similarly, historically in Korea, fair skin, Mughal India. It's because the fair skin signaled privilege. And so they could be indoors, not tan, and have people take care of their beauty. Because the way they presented themselves was a symbol of the power and wealth of the men of their family. I mean, you don't wake up like this. This historic Korean woman had somebody help her. So you already had a culture that prize fairness, and then with the rise in the age of exploration or exploitation of seeing people who looked different, it basically doubled that anti-blackness, which absolutely does not make it okay. But what it means is, so if you're Asian or Asian American, you have to be very cognizant of the negative and harmful stereotypes that you have been susceptible to and that you have to choose to counteract.
This is an urgent message for all Asian Americans. I need you guys to stop what this is doing. This is going to be a long one, but I need you guys to pay attention. As you can probably see already, the entire country is slowly going into turmoil and chaos. And if you have been paying close enough attention, you will also come to the realization that people are choosing sides. More specifically, Black, brown, and indigenous people are siding with each other. However, you also may come to the realization that you don't see yourself being included into this conversation or the scenario. I recently saw this video by an Asian man talking about how he feels excluded from the scenario and the conversations held by Black, brown, and indigenous people. And even though I understand his frustration, I understand why my people do not feel the need to include Asian people. And that's because many Black Americans believe that Asian Americans has benefited off the model minority myth and whiteness. That and the heavily engraved anti-blackness and obsession over whiteness in the Asian community, not to mention the poor performance during the election. And despite my best efforts to show them and you that Asian Americans are actually the second largest race to vote for the Democratic Party, it wasn't enough. And for most of us, we understand the reasoning. It's because the older generation of the Asian community did not receive an education here in the United States to understand the graphic details of how important this actually is. When in fact, it was their kids who received an education in the first place, which is why they tend to lean more left. It's because they're aware of history and have an education in the United States. But despite statistics and information, this doesn't automatically disprove everything. Even in the younger generation, there's still enough anti-blackness and obsession over whiteness. Asian community, you really need to get your stuff figured out as soon as possible. In fact, I truly believe that the Asian community is more likely to destroy themselves before the Triple K, neo-Nazis, white supremacists, and any other racist white person even have the chance to do so. What black people and other people of color, besides Asian people of course, do not understand is that the Asian community within itself doesn't really like each other either. Anti-blackness is only one of the issues the Asian community has, when a lot of people in the Asian community are actually very racist and hateful towards each other. I'm not a rookie when it comes to history and knowledge. I'm very well educated on history. Chinese and Korean people do not like Japanese people because of the millions that they killed in their countries. It left generational trauma for years to come, and Japanese people don't really like Chinese or Koreans either. And Koreans, I'm using this very loosely because I'm not entirely sure if it's changed, but they don't really like Southeast Asian people either. Vietnamese people do not like Chinese people because of the 1,000 years of colonization. Chinese people don't really like Vietnamese people either, so go figure. Vietnamese and Cambodians don't really like each other because about 50, 60 years ago, they were duking it out with one another. And now they're having an infinite conversation of who was right and who was wrong. Mongolians don't really like Chinese people. Chinese people don't really like Mongolians. And Kazakhs don't like Mongolians either. Taiwanese, mostly in the younger generation, don't really want to deal with China or Chinese people. And a lot of Chinese people still feel that Taiwanese people are Chinese, and that pisses Taiwanese people off. So not only not all, in general, Asian communities have intense anti-blackness within their communities, but they're also very hateful towards one another because their beauty standards, their culture, their history all clashes with one another. So when you have the model minority myth that was created to pit Asians against black people because they understood that during the civil rights movement, if black and Asian people united, it will cause a major problem for the people in power and for white supremacy. So when you convince them to become the model minority, you might as well go a step further and convince them to be obsessed over whiteness, something they would never get. They will feed tits and taps a bits of white acceptance to East Asians, but never to Southeast Asians, which causes a further divide between East Asians and Southeast Asian people. And South Asian, because Indians and Lebanese, etc. are also Asian. So if you put the entire Asian community in this massive, unfortunate predicament, they will undoubtedly not only hate each other, but hate black people. So it prevents Asian Americans from having a solidarity with black and brown people. But they will destroy themselves little by little while simultaneously fighting for white validation they will never receive. In conclusion, Asian people need to figure out where they stand within these next 4 years, because I promise you, if you do not figure it out soon, your own demise will follow you. Your own demise will eventually keep up to you. I am trying to help y'all because I don't see anybody else that isn't Asian telling you this. To the Asian American community, if you do not figure this out before the white supremacy catches up to you, you will eventually destroy yourself. I have been calling this, I have been saying this for 4 years now. Remember that college DI situation several months back and how the Asian statistic was drastically dropping compared to the black, which looks like it barely moved? It is not because black people are less smart and they're just giving us a pass. People suddenly realized that Asian people in general being smart was nothing but a stereotype. Go figure, I've been known this. A lot of these DEIs happen to be Asian people and they were eventually removed. And some racist Asian people was like, what? Black people are actually smart? Oh, duh. And I also recall that Washington Post back in 2020, 2021, calling East Asians specifically white, completely disregarding Southeast Asians and South Asians to piss off. Once again, further proof that they're trying to divide the Asian community entirely. Also in 2020 and 2021, our white leaders, including Orange Man, was sparking anti-Asian sentiment, causing anti-Asian hate crimes all over the country. And now here we are again in 2024, and this part I'm stumped on because Asian Americans are second to Latinos when it comes to being an immense part of immigration. And a lot of you are silent, which blows my mind. Silence isn't going to save you. Not to mention, the government recently passed a bill to fund $1.2 billion worth of anti-Chinese propaganda. Where do you think that puts you? So not all of you are silent, but a lot of you are also included into this immigration policy. I am sure there's a lot of you who has chosen solidarity with black and brown people, but there's also a lot of you who is too afraid to do so. It could be for multiple things: your sacrifice over whiteness, or maybe your parents, or maybe you're just secretly racist. But regardless, time is running out. Asian people do not have a lot of time. Black people are already joining together, and they are convinced they will make it out on top by the end of this. And so far, they are siding with Latinos and indigenous people. And as much as I want Asian people to join us, I have to take a step back and realize there is a lot of them who won't even consider that option. But we don't know who that is. I know there are millions of them who will side with us, but I also know there are other millions of Asian people who wouldn't dare to do so. I feel like I needed to make this video because time is really running out for you guys, and I'm trying to do y'all a favor. I'm trying to encourage y'all. I'm trying to hope you guys are waking up to see it for what it actually is. But time is of the essence. This country never cared about you. You was nothing but a pawn, and you was nothing but a tool. Please open your eyes. Good luck.
I'm so tired of Asians being lumped in with white people and even being considered white people. And unfortunately, it's because there's no solidarity between minorities in America, especially POC women. One of my first videos that went viral like 2 years ago was about how Asian women feel like they're undesired growing up. And then all of a sudden, they don't know if they're desired because they're Asian or not. And fetishization literally happens to every single woman of color. It doesn't matter what race they are, it happens. It's just that Asian women are blamed for it because of all this Oxford study shit. First of all, that's not even a real thing, but I'm not even gonna get into that. But anyway, I made that video and one of the top liked comments was, "You're white because you're not dark skinned. You can't call yourself a woman of color." And she was like, "Get a fucking dictionary, Asian people are white." And it got like 100 likes. And this was a woman of color. And there's so many things wrong with that statement because there's so many ethnicities in Asia. There's not just East Asians. There's South Asians and Southeast Asians, and a lot of times their skin is actually dark. So are they white then? Like, that makes no sense. And if she is talking about East Asians, we still physically look different and are treated different because of the way that we look. So calling us white wouldn't make sense. And yes, being Asian in America comes with a set of privileges versus other people of color. But we also have to keep in mind that the model minority myth is a myth for a reason. It leaves out different regions of Asia. It leaves out people from lower socioeconomic backgrounds. And most importantly, it's pitting people of color against each other when really we should be practicing solidarity. We're all in this together, and it's not a question of what race is the most oppressed. Like, turning it into a competition into who is the most oppressed is not helping the situation. And I feel like another thing that people don't get is even if you are a minority yourself, you can be racist to other minorities, and it's a problem if you do it still. Again, I know people are gonna misinterpret the point of this video. I do know that being Asian comes with privilege. It is important to acknowledge that privilege. But at the same time, there are a lot of stereotypes that are harming us actively, and it needs to be taken seriously because there's so many misconceptions and misinformation on the internet, and there are people being blatantly ignorant. Like that situation with the TikTok CEO and a senator from the US. It might be just a funny video, but the fact that someone who's in politics doesn't know that Singapore is a country and is choosing not to listen and choosing to be ignorant, that is genuinely discriminatory, and this is a politician. And obviously we've known that politicians can be racist to Black and Indigenous people of color in particular for decades, but we can't just ignore this. And every time I've seen an Asian woman on here talk about this, all of the comments are just Oxford study, even if it's unrelated to men, which is insane.
Because they honestly do not think they're a minority. A lot of Asians live under that whitewashed world. And that comes from me speaking from experience as a Vietnamese woman with Black kids. I've heard every racial slur there is. Why are you with a Black man? Your kids are gonna be dark. Your kids are gonna be like charcoal. Majority of Asian people are Trump supporters. They don't speak up, they don't fight, they don't speak on the situation, they don't even like talking about the situation. And when they do, they sound stupid and ignorant. They don't like doing that because in their mind, they're white. Majority of Asians feel the whiter the skin, the...
My son was born and raised in America. I remember one day he came home from school. That was when he was about 5 years old. He said to me, "Hey Dad, I learned American history today." I said, "Wow, that's great." He said, "Now I really feel bad for black people." I said, "Yeah, they're really mistreated in American history." He said, "Yeah, and I'm so glad that I'm white." I was like, "Hold on. You're not white." He said, "What am I?" I said, "You're yellow."
Thanks to this Washington School District for clearing this up. And so as my first message as a member of the white community, I wholeheartedly reject this nonsense. I didn't spend my entire life being called a chink and ching chong and ling ling, only to have the school district continue the erasure of the Asian American experience. If you don't give a shit about the Asian American community, you probably don't give a shit about this. And there's definitely gonna be comments saying that, well, you guys think you're white anyway. But listen here, I don't. And this is bullshit. Asian Americans are people of color. Our experience isn't the same as the Black and Latinx communities, but even among the Asian American community, the subgroups have vastly different experiences, such as the South Asian versus the East Asian versus the Southeast Asian, and why accurate data is important, and accurate disaggregation of that data is also equally as important. Over 40% of the Asian American population lives under the poverty line. We continue to see a rise in xenophobia and racism towards us, and this is a great example of our erasure.
Yeah, welcome back. The thing is, a lot of you might feel, oh, but a lot of them are now claiming, no, they are people of color based on what has happened. Have you traveled to an Asian country before? Have you been to an Asian country before? Those people worship whiteness. They are so obsessed with white people. They feel, oh, this is who we are. This is what we are. If they see me in their country, they will never respect me. If they see you and you're a black person in their country, they just feel you're not human enough, right? They feel this person is not a human being. But when I see them on TikTok and all of that, I just feel all of these things are just for the internet, because you can't really tell me that an Asian really love being black. If there is a way that they can coin it out of whatever context it is, they will. They don't like blackness. The reason a lot of them started appreciating blackness or whatever it is, some of them even go as far as calling themselves yellow. When they know they can't just really call themselves yellow, they now say POCs. What is POCs? There is nothing like POCs. You're either white or black. You are black people. Asians are black people. They are black people. It doesn't matter, oh, but our color is this. They are black people. You're either white or black. And I just hope they just embrace it. The thing is, a whole lot of them know this. They know this. And they start teaching their kids racism from way young. Like, I'm like, who does this? Who really does this one? I would rather trust a white American than trust Asian. I am telling you the truth. White American can even maybe pretend, might even love it genuinely, looking at the fact that, oh, okay, their country have black people, right? And maybe some of them have been helped by black people. Black people have helped them done this, do that, we understand that. But you see these ones, they just believe they have no damn business, even though they have some sort of history. They have something to do with slavery and all of that. But they don't put that into contest. They say, oh no, they're white. They feel, oh, they're closer to white, and so they're white. In fact, they feel they are more superior than we black people. And I'm like, come on, can you imagine? People who eat worms. People who literally eat worms. I mean live worms, not dead worms. People who eat frogs and cockroaches and all of that. It's so anyways, I don't hate them, but the thing is, the fact that they don't like my race, they don't like us out there, it's aura for aura. Yeah, it's aura for aura. Whatever you want to call it, you call it. I don't care. But it's aura for aura. You like black, we like you. You don't like black, we don't like you. Period. And that's it. I want to hear your thoughts in the comments. Do not forget, my name is Blessing on Global Just I'll see you next time. Bye, guys.